Ms. Stevens, you good? Got a slow minute here.
Karen had some candy, but not on her computer. All over for it. Yeah, it is.
Bob on it.
Yes. I don't think so.
Okay, the time is 7 p.m. and I call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Red Oak City Council to order. Let it be known that we do have a quorum present. All council members are in attendance. Notice has been duly posted in accordance to Texas Government Code Section 551. Councilman Smith, would you lead us in the pledges and the invocation, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for blessing us at this time to come together as individuals and as a community. Lord, we ask that you bless all those participating, our families, friends, and neighbors. Lord, we ask that you watch over our city, staff, our public servants, and our first responders. Finally, Lord, we ask that you oversee us with your wisdom as we conduct the business of this city. Help us in our deliberations that we might represent all members of this great community fairly and provide us with the right decision. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. I'm supposed to have a proclamation. Am I supposed to have a proclamation? Well, let's, we'll do that a little bit later. Okay? Mr. Benford, do you have someone to be able to introduce?
I do. Our new IT specialist, this is Greg Hood. Greg Hood comes to us with 5 years of IT experience. He's worked in a managed service provider area where they've supported multiple companies. Has hit the ground running. I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to be fine, and we're glad to have him.
Excellent. We're glad you're here.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, you'll have to teach some of these, like middle age.
There's not a lot right now. We're in the drought, so there's not a lot of clouds, so probably maybe September.
Congratulations. Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Chief Wolf.
Mayor, Council, I have an introduction and a couple of presentations to present tonight. The introduction is for a new officer that we recently hired, and we were able to bring her on board. We were lucky enough to steal her from another department. This is Officer Daniela Acosta.
Hello.
Hello.
She's 23 years old. She was raised in California, or San Diego, California. She spent 4 years in the Army, active duty, 1 deployment to Iraq. She's currently serving in the National Guard, and she says here she's married and has the mother of 2 dogs with no kids. We're very fortunate. We were very lucky to steal her from another city, and she's currently in our orientation phase, which is a 2-week process, and she'll be moving into the actual field training program next week. So we're very blessed to have her, in the department, and we look forward to her doing good things for us.
Well, welcome to the city.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
One of my other privileges as the chief of police is occasionally I get to recognize staff for outstanding performance. Tonight I have 3 presentations for meritorious conduct and life-saving. I'm going to ask Sergeant Meeks to come up and give me a hand with the presentation of the medals and the Chief's coin. And I'm going to read what each one of these medals are. If you'll indulge me for just a minute, it's going to take us a little bit of time to get through them, but I think it's important that we recognize these officers. Each of the officers here tonight that are going to be presented these awards are receiving a meritorious conduct, which shall be awarded for heroic deed and exceptional meritorious conduct involving exemplary courage, risk, and danger to the officer's personal safety, or may be awarded to an officer for meritorious service in duty of greater responsibility, the duty reflecting excellence in performance and distinguishing the officer and the department. The life-saving award shall be awarded to officers directly responsible for saving a human life. They may be awarded when evidence indicates the actions by the officers prolonged a human life to the extent that the victim being released to advanced life support, care, and medical authorities, even though the victim may expire at a later date. So the saving or prolonging of a human life must occur under the circumstances in which the victim has sustained a life-threatening injury or is experiencing life-threatening medical distress, or the individual is in a life-threatening situation and is rescued by an officer who has placed himself in imminent physical danger. And that's a process where these officers are nominated by their immediate supervisors. That goes through a review process from the sergeant on shift to the lieutenant to my office. I review those, and then I make a determination if they met those criteria. And the 3 officers that are being presented awards tonight meet those. And I would like to give you a little backstory on why each one of these officers are receiving their awards. I'm going to read this one award for Officer Rebecca Peebyhouse and Officer Taylor Rawls. Y'all will join me up here, please. They have some family in attendance tonight as well. Commendation, life-saving, meritorious conduct, Officer Peebyhouse and Officer Rawls. The Red Oak Police Department believes in the sanctity of life, and as such, there are occasions where we actively get to preserve and protect life by our immediate intervention. Below is such an action that resulted in the preservation of life and in keeping with the best traditions of law enforcement profession. On Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, at 12:47 a.m., the Need Dispatch Center received a 911 phone call requesting police officers to respond to the 400 block of Valley Ridge Drive about a welfare concern. The reporting person advised that his friend was possibly trying to commit suicide. The caller advised that the friend had asked them, how long does it take to leave a car running inside of a garage before you die? The reporting person advised that he last spoke to his friend a few minutes before the 911 call at 00:47 hours. He advised the friend and describes the vehicle. The reporting person stated that the friend appeared to be intoxicated and was speaking with her on the phone. The reporting person stated that he's no longer able to make contact with his friend and that she has 3 children that live in the residence as well. Officer Peebyhouse and Officer Rawls arrived at the location. They walked the exterior of the residence and could hear what they believed to be a vehicle running inside the garage. Officer Rawls attempted to forcibly raise the garage door and was unsuccessful. Officer Rawls and Officer Peebyhouse continued searching the front and rear of the residence for any possible way inside. Officer Rawls located an unlocked window, and Officer Rawls and Peebyhouse announced themselves as they moved through the residence. After entering through the window, Officer Rawls and Peebyhouse located the interior garage door, opened the garage door, and observed a vehicle that was running in the closed garage. Upon opening the garage door, They retreated back inside the residence because of the overwhelming exhaust fumes that were inside the garage. As the garage air circulated with fresh air, they returned to the running vehicle, located a female inside of the vehicle sitting in the driver's seat with her head tilted back and towards the passenger side of the vehicle. The female was unresponsive when officers first arrived and opened the door, but eventually opened her eyes, but was very lethargic. Officer P.B. Howson Rawls removed the female from the vehicle, placed her in the driveway. Officer P.B. Howson Rawls removed the female from the vehicle, placed her in the driveway, and eventually began to respond to their questioning. Medics arrived on scene and began administering medical care to the female. The female was transported to the hospital in the ambulance, and the residence was secured without incident. In keeping with the best traditions of the law enforcement community, and because of the immediate and decisive actions of both officers, a crisis was averted, a life was saved, and help was provided. Their actions bring great credit upon themselves and the Red Oak Police Department. Both officers are commended for their quick actions, and I am conferring upon each officer, respectively, the Red Oak Police Department Life-Saving Award and Meritorious Conduct. Both officers are commended for their quick actions that day and the positive impact that they had on the citizen of Red Oak. It is one of my greatest honors to bestow upon both of you the Red Oak Police Department Life-Saving Award, Meritorious Conduct Award bars for your efforts in the preservation of life and the sanctity of life. So if y'all want to step forward. So each one of you can get a citation for meritorious conduct. Okay, this is yours. This is your life saving.
And then let me get a picture of y'all.
So each one of you are presented with ribbons to wear on your uniform for meritorious conduct. Life saving. And each one of you are presented with the Chief of Police challenge coin numbering 6 and 7. For y'all to be able to display as well.
Chief, I'd also point out as well that the victim or the person in this case did call back later and did talk to Sergeant Meeks, and she was very appreciative of the two officers of doing that. So I just wanted to pass that along, that also came from the citizen as well, how she appreciated that so much.
And not necessarily worthy of an official commendation, but Sergeant Meeks, in speaking with that victim, was incredibly compassionate and did a very good job of exemplifying our mission as a police department. In listening to her, he was very empathetic to her situation, very understanding, and she was very complimentary of his effort in reaching out to check her welfare. So. So I have one more presentation. This is a life-saving award as well. I'm going to go ahead and have Officer Jalen Merrick. So he's being presented the same two medals, so I'll spare the reading of the citations again. But I do want to read the commendation that was presented to me for consideration. So the details of this particular event, on 5/30/2022, at 5:38 p.m., Officer Merrick was dispatched to an unresponsive person in the 300 block of Valley Ridge Drive, Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Call note stated that a person at the location was not breathing, turning blue in color. Officer Merrick was first on scene. He immediately located the victim in the bathroom and found him to be unresponsive. Officer Merrick checked for a pulse, did not locate one. The victim was not breathing. Officer Merrick immediately began to administer CPR to the victim. After performing CPR, Officer Merrick switched with the victim's girlfriend, who was a nurse. Officer Marquez and Officer Sines arrived on scene shortly after to assist Red Oak FD with the preparing of this individual to be transported and continued life-saving measures. Officers secured the scene and began to investigate the suspicious circumstances around the unresponsive person. At the beginning of their investigations, officers were told by the victim's girlfriend that nothing was wrong with the victim and there was no reason for this. Through a subsequent investigation, they were able to determine that he had actually overdosed on fentanyl. He was transported by the medics. He was also provided some life-saving intervention with Narcan to help counteract the effects of the fentanyl. He was transported to Baylor Scott and White Hospital in Waxahachie, where he remained alive, but in critical condition. I believe that due to Officer Merrick's immediate performance of CPR on the victim, he was able to at least keep the victim alive long enough to be treated by medics and eventually transported to the hospital. I believe that a thorough investigation by Officer Marquez, Sines, and Merrick led officers to discover the actual reason for this person being in crisis. They were able to inform the medics who took the appropriate measures to attempt to revive the victim. The officers had not accomplished these tests and tasks with the speed and professionalism in which they did. It seems that the victim may have been pronounced deceased at the scene. I believe that the actions of Officer Merrick in administering life-saving measures immediately bring credit upon himself and the department. Their actions, at a minimum, allowed the victim to be transported to the hospital and potentially may have saved his life. Officer Merrick should be commended for his efforts on that. Unfortunately, approximately a week later, this individual did expire from the overdose, but as the citation reads, there were life-saving measures that were provided at first that at least allowed us to prolong his life so his family and other relatives could be there when he did pass. So with that, we're going to issue the same citations, life-saving award, and meritorious conduct. Again, we'll be issuing ribbons for him to be able to wear on his uniform, denoting the citations that he's been presented. And he is receiving Chief's Coin number 8 for his actions that night as well. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. So, a lot of our audience is family, and we're glad that you were here. You should have had that pointed out. Thanks for doing it. Good to see you, Mr. King. Thank you, officers. Thank you. All right, so our proclamation. Mr. Kelly, you'll come up and join me. We find a cooler month to be able to do this. So this is designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. And we all know that being physically fit, whether you're athletic or eating or whatever it is, our city has a duty to be able to provide it. You coming on board exceeded our expectations, allowing our city to kind of make a stair step up in a positive direction, and be able to provide avenues for kids and adults to get physically fit. And it's by virtue of this proclamation that I, as mayor, and us as city council, recognize that July is Park and Recreation Month. And we are just so blessed that we're able to be in this position, to be able to start adding this to our repertoire and continue to fight businesses and builder development, things like that into our city. And now we just are so blessed to be able to kind of do that. Sure, sign or do that too, but thank you very much. So, yes, we like IDC's money for that. All right. We're out of time in our meeting. We actually have citizens' comments. We do have Mike Tabara online, and he would like to speak. He sent an email, but he's also online, so we're going to kind of let you do that in person. We just ask that you realize that if it's not on our agenda, we can't make a comment about it. And we'll give you the leeway of about 3 minutes to be able to express your point.
Thank you, Mayor Stanfield. Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. So I know we're limited on time, so I'll make it as brief as I can. A little background, I'm the owner of the property at 240 East Avila Road. It's the automotive shop there. We used to operate, we acquired this property, the land, the building, and the business back in 2019. And we operated for a couple of years in the automotive repair. And then we found the tenants in which we turned over the business and the operational side, but we remained landlords. Since then, the tenants was not able to obtain a CO, certificate of occupancy, due to multiple reasons. And on the last hearing, June 13th, the city council made the decision to deny, and their CO was rejected, and they had to vacate, which triggered them terminating the lease with us. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go back in to operate the business, and until we form a decision with or a way forward with TxDOT, which on the last meeting, June 13th, there was a couple of wrong assumptions. There has still not been a settlement with TxDOT. We're still very much fighting it, and then with this recent developments of the tenant leaving, that kind of changes our way forward with TxDOT. So what I'm trying to use this time to request, I'm trying to see if I can be placed on the agenda for the next city council, so I can address this more formally and can get into a little bit more details. And I have a couple solutions and a couple ideas that I'd like for you guys to hear, and hoping that you guys give me the option and the ability to do so. That's all I had, Mayor Stanfield.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tabara. And what I would probably advise you to meet with city staff.
Yeah, so it would be just the same thing that we just did. It would have to be another zoning request. Obviously the PD, they've refused, and I would assume that they would be the same thing on a different business, but it might be something where we could look at an SUP or something that expired at some time. I hadn't talked to Bob about it yet, but it would just be simply another zoning request. You'd go back through the same process, Mike.
Yes, I understand. I'm just trying to get a way forward so we can keep operating, being that I did have a CO before we leased it out. And this thing can take, and with my business, every day that keeps this business closed, I'm losing a substantial base. I'm trying to get the doors open, being that TxDOT hasn't claimed any of this set, and we just go back to the old ways back in June of 2021 and prior, when I was operating. I'm just trying to get into operational status as we work through a solution, not while remaining closed. And that's, and that's what I'm trying to get to to get going here.
So again, we can't really discuss it, but I can direct you to city staff, to kind of talk about that
Todd, I went to the city. I talked to Emma. I talked to the engineer. They're not willing to work. It's they said I cannot operate. I cannot do anything with the business right now. So that's why I'm trying to,
There's nothing that they can do at this point because they have not had a CO in over a year, so they have no non-conforming status. So again, the only way that you could look at something would be through some other zoning request, and look at something with a time limit or something would be about the only thing.
Yes. I do have some solutions that I would like to present, which I've put on the agenda to see about going forward with it, with some parking that next door to me that belongs to the city, that might be, maybe the city will be able to lease out to me, at least to continue an operation, or through other methods. Just as we talk, I'm not saying I'm more than willing to tear down have the building, to rezone, to redo what we got to do. I just want to keep the business open until being that TxDOT, we're still at least a year out from actual execution. So that way we have we have something going on, Todd. And when I talked to the public works, it seemed like they just shut the door and they're not really, they're not willing to work unless I basically rezone and move forward. They're not willing to have me keep my business operational in the meantime.
Yeah, and I understand the dilemma that we're in. We can't overstep our process that we've established through the city. It has to work through those things. So we as a council can't overstep that right now. Has to go back through that whole zone. And again, the only thing I can say is, you're gonna have to start at that one step, since it was TxDOT that took the property, which then made it not complying with what our zoning positions are, if I'm stating all that correct.
Yeah, so bottom line is staff cannot issue a CO when it's not in conforming with the existing zoning, and it is not. So the only way to issue a CO, even if it's a temporary CO, is to go back through the zoning process and try to work that out if there's some sort of way that could be done. But he's absolutely right, and if Public Works or Community Development had given a CO, then we'd be having a different conversation because they would have done something wrong. Obviously, the only way forward is through that process.
It's not a discretion issue. If someone did not use discretion, they're following proper protocol and not issuing a new CO.
Correct.
Just aside, this is that case that we had last month. So that's the best I can give you right now. Is it's going to have to start back at that square one and work back up. And as a business owner myself, I understand the loss of the income but we have policy set that we have to follow it, and we can't hop, skip, and jump over certain parts to allow things to happen.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
You bet. Thank you, sir. And then Mr. Vincent, I assume you want to speak at that specific item number?
Item 13.
Yep, okay. And I don't think we have anybody else online to speak, and we didn't have any other turn in. Okay. Okay. So we'll move on to our consent agenda. Consent agenda is part of the agenda, that items that are considered routine in nature and can be acted upon in one motion. There are items that have come up before us before in discussion, and therefore, any item can be removed from the consent agenda and acted upon separately. Any council member, myself, or city manager can give a little bit more detail if that's requested. So I first ask, is there any item that needs to be pulled? And that would be items 1 through 12 for more information.
Yes.
Okay?
Items 7, 8, and 9, please.
Okay. So 7, 8, and 9, we can remove. Was there anything else? Okay, then let's act on those that are not removed. Entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 6, 10, 11, and 12.
So moved.
Councilman, Franklin? Councilman Goodwin? Second? Those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Aye. Drake, aye.
Smith, aye.
Aye.
All right, that's 5-0. Now, items 7, 8, and 9, those were detailed information about our discussion that we had last time, specifically to be able to charge gate fees. And Mr. Kelly, my assumption is that you were able to meet with them and do an amendment to the contract that they had previously signed for this coming year,
That is correct.
and that was based on lawyers' verbiage.
Correct. That was reviewed by the attorney.
And all three of those organizations were satisfied with how it was presented?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Councilman Franklin, did you have other questions?
That sums it up for me, but also, you had mentioned which organization said they did not want to charge fees?
Soccer.
Soccer was the
Soccer
only
said
one.
they would never charge a fee, they just don't see it happening because it's not typical for soccer to be charging fees. Baseball and football and softball, baseball sometimes charge a fee, but only if they're having a end of year tournament where they have to pay for referee or for umpires and things like that, so it's excessive costs. And at that point, we would work with them on whatever they would charge, but they too said that they didn't think that they would need to charge, but they'd like to have the ability if they had to.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yeah, so to clarify, I think the point is, they don't have to charge a fee,
Right.
but now we've allowed it that if they feel they need to,
Right.
they can.
Right.
And not have to come
All the
back to.
contracts are exactly the same as they were in January. The only verbiage that changed was the not to be able to charge a gate fee. Now it just says they have the ability if they so choose, but they do have to come to the city to talk to us about what they're thinking about charging. So, in other words, they can't go charge $25 a person and without coming and saying, hey, here's the reason why we're doing it, because they understand, like we've all discussed with these different groups, is that it has to be something that's reasonable and something that's just for what they're doing, so that way we don't get somebody that decides that they're gonna get out of control and charge something really ridiculous and upset everybody that wants to come and see the kids.
All right, thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Everybody good? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve items 7, 8, 9.
So moved.
Councilman Franklin? Councilman Drake? Those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Aye.
Drake, aye.
Lightfoot, aye.
Smith, aye.
All right, that's 5-0. Item 13, conduct a public hearing regarding voluntary annexation of real property generally described as being 71.880 acres, more or less, out of the William S. Shelton Survey, abstract 996, in the city of Red Oak, ETJ, Ellis County, Texas, parcel number 227-286. So this is a public hearing. This property, is there a way for us to get it up on the screen, we don't have a screen. So, council, this property is directly north of East Ridge Baptist Church, correct? Right. Okay. We do have a representative here that might be able to, from Bloomfield Homes, that's Clint Vincent. So we'll open the public hearing, and that time is 7:34.
Mayor and Council, I would point out too, that this is strictly the public hearing. We won't be taking action tonight. This is just the public hearing itself. And next month, we'll come back and have the zoning case, and public hearing, and do the annexation action at that time.
So, council, we have, Mr. Vincent here, and if you have any questions, or if you want to just state your name, your address, and tell us who you are, and
Excellent, thanks. I just wanted to make sure that someone from Bloomfield Homes here. So, Clint Vincent, I am the Vice President of Land for Bloomfield Homes, 1050 East Highway 114 in South Lake. And just as Mr. Fuller described, I'm really just here to answer any questions. This is just a hearing for the public annexation, or the public hearing for the annexation. And we will be back next month for the full zoning and action on the annexation as well. I do have some handouts if you want them, otherwise I can save the dog and pony for August. And that's fine too, so just however you want it. I have handouts I can give you, and really just here to answer any questions that you might have during the public hearing.
yeah, and I'm just going to, thank you, sir, very much. I just want to make sure everybody else knows out in the audience, this is a voluntary annexation. Reason why they do that, just to refresh everybody, is because then they can get the density a little bit denser, and get some services, and help defer some of the costs for the infrastructure that you have to put in. So, all right. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on that? Thank you, sir. All right, I'll entertain a motion at 7:36 to close. All right, Councilman Lightfoot, second that, Councilman Drake. Those in favor of closing?
Fraser, aye.
Drake, aye.
Lightfoot, aye.
That's aye.
All right, that's 5-0. Item 14, consider adoption of resolution number 22-045R, the City of Red Oak, Texas, City, approving an expenditure, thank you, sir, we'll see you next time. See you next. Approving an expenditure of the City of Red Oak Industrial Development Corporation, the CROIDC, for the construction of a basketball court at Hargrove Park, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing an effective date.
And Mayor and Council, IDC took action on this item earlier tonight and approved a resolution to do so. So what we're looking at is a new full-court basketball court to be located there in Hargrove Park in Oakmont Estates. And we would be building it in some of the overflow parking at that facility out towards the roadway. We may still have to do some other small things like curb cuts to be able to allow access into the other overflow parking that we don't use at all at this point. But this would be, I believe the initial expenditure would be the $46,000. We would be coming back in the next month or two to bring back the additional cost, which would be the electricity. Number one, we've got to get electricity across the creek and over to the site, as well as put the light poles up and the security cameras. So that total would be approximately $88,000. But the first phase tonight, IDC already approved was the $46,000, and that's what we would ask council to bless tonight if that would be your decision.
All right, any other questions, council? Okay, I'll entertain that motion to adopt resolution.
Can I ask a question?
sorry, before you take the motion. So this is for community open use, or is this for
Yes.
league or reservation only?
It's just community open use, just recreational.
Thank you.
Consider adoption of resolution 22-045R.
Second.
Ooh, gaggle. I'm not sure who said that first. Was it Councilman Drake? Okay. Second over here?
Second.
Okay, Lightfoot? Those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Aye. Drake, aye. Lightfoot, aye.
Smith, aye.
All right, that's 5-0. We always like spending, IDC money. So, consider adoption, number 15, consider adoption of resolution number 22-057R, the City Council of City of Red Oak, Texas, approving an expenditure in the amount not to exceed $432,253.50 through an interlocal government contract with Ellis County Commissioner Precinct 4 for the reconstruction and resurfacing of various roads located in Red Oak, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents and providing an effective date. Mr. Benford.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much.
Yeah.
This project is for approximately 1.86 miles of roadway located in the Beckley Pike neighborhood. It was identified last year by council as an area that desperately needed attention, and that was reconfirmed with our pavement condition assessment that was done last year. This is a really good price. It actually came in below what we had budgeted, which was about $500,000. We did include 5% contingency. We hope we don't have to touch it, but it is there in case we have to swap out additional culverts that we didn't have budgeted in the stormwater side of it that cross under the road, go to that creek in the south. And the road will be slightly widened by about 6 inches to a foot on each side.
Nice.
Can you check this, Rugged Road?
Yep.
What's that, how's that one rank on your?
It's rated high 30s, low 40s. It needs attention, and it's on our top of the list for,
It's on the list for the new budget.
yep.
Pardon?
It's on the list for the new budget.
Okay.
Yeah, these are the roads that were already approved
Yeah,
at last year.
We'll
So,
make sure somebody.
yeah, so we've got that one already on there for next year.
Pretty rough.
Yeah, it's top.
It's rugged.
We're on
Got it on
it.
Baxter was really exceptional. I thought that was really a heck of a good job done.
Just wait, we're not done. That was just patching. We'll be coming through, in a couple weeks to a month, for the, slurry seal, and it'll look like a brand new road, 3 years. That'd be nice.
So, back to what we're talking about. We're talking about Beckley Heights,
Yep.
which is, in case you council members aren't familiar where that is, it's, just on the west side of I-35 on the little road.
Yep, so it'll be,
Southeast Quadrant.
South.
We not have access to that?
I don't guess so, because we don't have Mr. Hartman here with his computer.
but it does include Overlook Drive,
It's not that
Carson Street, Moorview Street, Dana Street, Roxy Street, and Baldwin Street. So it's,
Is that all of the, streets, that little?
yes,
Looking at the small map of it.
Council good?
yes.
Okay. We'll consider adopting resolution number 22-057R. Thank you, Councilman Goodwin.
Second.
Councilman Franklin, thank you. Those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Aye. Very nice.
Lightfoot, aye.
Smith, aye.
All right, that passes 5-0.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 16, consider adoption of resolution number 22-058R, the City of Red Oak, Texas, approving additional funding for the contract with AUI Partners LLC in the amount of $118,854.50 for the Live Oak Municipal Center as provided in Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents and providing an effective date. Mr. Phillips?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a change order, as the mayor stated, in the amount of $118,854.50. Essentially, what you're getting for that money is repair and replacement to the existing air conditioning units at the new City Hall facility. There's approximately 60 units on the entire facility. So we knew that there were going to be some repairs needed. We knew not all of them worked. Such case, even as the school district has taken parts and pieces off of air conditioning units to fix other air conditioning. So some of them weren't even all the way there, just maybe a shell of them. So long story short, we had a survey done of all the HVAC equipment in the building. And off the survey, that I attached to your packet, it lists out every single unit with all the required repairs to get them functioning again. In discussions, they originally came back with a number of like $101,000 worth of repairs, but once they got into some of the ducting and different balancing for the HVAC units, they came back and said, well, it looks like it's going to be more like $135,000. So we said, okay, we know we don't need all these units. Can you go back and basically cannibalize units to repair other units and so on? And so we landed somewhere in between at the $118,000 number. And what that does is that takes us down to 53 units versus 60. So there's 7 units that we will no longer need to support the building. Also, it's a little different configuration now because it's office spaces versus classrooms with high occupancy loads. So they can divert some of the air, a little further than they did when there were classrooms of 20 or 30 kids. So the second piece of this, which they've already started on, they had to go in and actually replace all the gas supply lines to the AC units because they were all rusted and corroded and wouldn't pass inspection. So they're in the process of doing that as part of the replacement on the roof. And that was about $70,000. So
That's included?
no, sir, that's an addition.
That'll come to us later?
No, we were able to approve that based on the roofer schedule and the plumber schedule.
Okay.
So that we're actually working on that now.
Okay.
But this is $118,000, which puts us over the contract amount, and so that's why it's here before you.
And again, this is one that we knew we were gonna have to add some money, we just didn't know what the amount was because they hadn't finished the survey.
Happy to answer any questions.
What kind of shape does this leave the remaining AC units in? Because I'm just looking through, scrolling through the report, a lot of bad condenser coils.
So this will repair all the notes that are on there.
Okay.
And then, like I said, the delete 7 units. We're not replacing any units, so there's no new units, and that actually ended up kind of being a good thing for us because the lead times on the AC units that they needed to purchase were not going to be they wouldn't be in time for the building completion. So, I guess in a way it kind of worked out because they were able to cannibalize and parts and pieces off those 7 units tonight. So, that's kind of was also the beauty of the survey is that we found out what was wrong with every single unit. They cleaned them, they charged them if they were in good shape. So, they did whatever kind of PM that was needed at the time of the survey. So that part is already.
How much is the new unit?
It depends on the size of the unit and where it was going.
About, say, 20?
Probably. I mean, if you think about that, that's 50 at 20, that's $100,000 right there.
Yeah, I would guess it's
Probably bigger.
We would probably, if we were replacing units, we'd probably look at more of like an RTU, a bigger unit, that would we'd be able to use fewer of these small units. Because if you drive by the building, you'll see what I'm talking about on the roof and on the outside. There's a ton of small units they use. So if you were to design that all over again, you would probably use the large package unit that you place on the roof. So you would need less of those, but those, of course, are more expensive.
So we're looking at about, give or take, a little bit over 2,200 per unit for repair. And are we sure that that's going to be the fix?
22,000. There's 50, there's 50,
What I say, 2,200?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Are we sure that's gonna be the fix, or was, like, I'm just trying to make sure we're not revisit this one.
Well, I mean, at this point, it gets us where we need to be. I mean, how long those units are gonna last, it's really hard to say. They're different ages, they're different types of units, and so, we're just trying to look for the most cost-effective solution. We didn't really have the budget to, go in and put all new HVAC.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more than that. I was just taking that 50 units and dividing it in there, 22,000 a unit. And probably a new one, probably double that size-wise, but less numbers.
I think most RTUs that size would probably, I mean, this is a guess, based on kind of what I've seen in this, report, but, would be $50,000 to $60,000 easily.
Okay.
But, yeah, there's a lot, I mean, just scrolling through the reports, looking at the different issues, they all have different issues that are going on, so this, I mean, it's obviously various states of disrepair that you're trying to get. But the survey is good, like you said, I mean, I think it's fantastic to have this kind of detail, because you'll be able to go back and look and see what you prepared when you.
And it again goes in inventory, we got a map with all the locations, they're all numbered and identified now in the unit, so when we have these units serviced in the future, we can have somebody and say, okay, this unit is not operating correctly, they can find it immediately and see the history behind it. So I think it does help us out, especially with the tight budget that we have.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Entertain a motion adopting resolution 22-058R.
So moved.
It's both of us over here on the right, so Councilman Smith, Councilman Lightfoot. Those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had the second? Oh, I apologize. I was hearing stereo over here. So you got it? So Smith and Drake. Okay, now, those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Aye. Drake, aye.
Lightfoot, aye.
Smith, aye.
All right, good, thank you. Yeah, we're gonna have a light system to move over there, so. The buzzer. If I get it wrong, you can shock me back. Anyway. Okay, Mr. Phillips, you wanna lead us in this discussion?
Yes, Mayor and Council, purpose of item number 17, is we wanted to get some input on possible naming of the facility. We call it the Live Oak Municipal Center, we called it Live Oak, we called it, a number of different things, the old school building, or, whatever, but, we're kind of getting to the point where we're starting to talk about signage, wayfinding, different things where we're gonna have to identify what we call that building in the community.
Addressing.
Addressing is something we're gonna have to work through too, because we have multiple sites in that parcel, so we're gonna have to decide if we address the football field one address, the, City Hall building another address, baseball field's another, or do we leave it? Currently, it's all addressed right now on Ellis County as 200 Live Oak, so something else to kind of think about, but, we, currently this building here is called the Municipal Center, and, it's actually in stone above the door. So we were looking at some other options besides Municipal Center if we were to leave this building called Municipal Center. So I've got 5 things that we've internally tossed around that I'll propose, and then maybe you guys have your own, but, I think, one option is definitely Red Oak City Hall. Another one might be Red Oak Government Center. Another option might be Red Oak City Center. Red Oak Community Complex.
or Red Oak Municipal Community Complex. So we looked around at some other cities. It's a unique building because we house multiple government agencies and pseudo-government agencies in that building. So we obviously have our city facilities there. We have space for the county tax office. We have space reserved for the ROISD Foundation, and we have space right now reserved for the Chamber of Commerce. They have their offices in there. So, yes, sir.
Why don't we call it what people, easiest thing that people around here, I mean, our citizens call it. We got some wrong name.
They can put it up his name.
Oh, we still sitting? I thought he.
Oh, it's okay. Just say the Drake Center?
City Hall is probably what they would call it. That's probably what most people call it. It's not a city hall.
I think I would ask, what would be the use of this building once we transfer over?
So this one turns into more of this type of space, but with smaller scale. So like the council room, maybe a smaller meeting room where you have the bigger ballrooms in here and you can have breakout sessions, or you can have daytime multiple events, you know, just on smaller scales. Right.
We're actually
business meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually looking at, and this will come up in the budget, but Alexa in the communications and marketing tourism is wrapped in there. We're actually looking at finding someone to do a feasibility study for this building. Once we get out to see, you know, if we were to do some reconfiguration and maybe, you know, rate study, look at that sort of thing, see what the best use of this building would be moving forward. So that's an idea out there as well.
Hey, Chief, wouldn't this be like a fire station right here, back in here, pull it in? Anyway, I'm just.
Bays fit in there? Fire trucks fit in right in?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the City Hall, I think that's fine. I think your point about having so many different agencies housed in there, calling it government center might not be a bad descriptor for it. I mean, it's not, it is Red Oak, still Red Oak Government Center. Red Oak Government Center?
Yeah, I wrote down government center or civic center.
People don't call it City Hall. They're gonna call it City Hall, you're right.
Well, they call this City Hall,
Yeah.
but it's not named.
It's a community center, what, native I was.
So it's not something that we have to make a decision tonight, it's just this discussion, I think.
I think they need to.
I think we kind of want,
We're talking about, we're getting close on signage and that sort of thing, so, project right now is titled Live Oak Municipal Center on all the architectural drawings and everything. And I figured we didn't want to call it that, so.
my 2 cents are either City Hall or Government Center. I think either one of those will work.
Yeah, with City Hall, it tend to take a different.
Yeah, I know. And the other reason.
Around to see. Specific what people think.
The other reason I thought Government Center was, you know, we do have multiple components in there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Government is the real problem, and the solution is the problem. Remember that?
So just to catch, other council members so who else is gonna be there? What of our organization, what of our departments are gonna be there?
So, we'll have, of course, our utility billing, our finance department, our human resources department, information technology, public works, fire admin, city secretary, development services, administration, economic development, and municipal court, and the library.
Everybody except police.
You had to be different, didn't you, Wolf?
You didn't want to be around this crazy place.
That way we can't watch you when you go to the donut shop, right?
We got a firefighter in a past life.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Okay, you know, whatever, I like Red Oak though, I like putting Red Oak, government center. I think we need to, if we're branding it, and I think this is where, Alexa needs to speak up. If we're branding Red Oak, it needs to have Red Oak in there. And so, you know, if it's the government center, that's fine, because we're gonna have the tax office. I think they probably hold a little bit more, easier to say that. So,
Call it City Hall, by the way.
I understand that, but I think as far as plating and making signage, I think it needs to have Red Oak Government Center, if that's so choose, but.
I agree, more than just what they call it though, I mean, it's gonna show up on Google searches, it's gonna be, mapping software is gonna have it in there, whatever we wanna call it. Put Red Oak in there, I mean, whether it's Red Oak City Hall or Red Oak Government Center, I don't know that I have too strong a feeling about it. I feel like Government Center is a better description for it, so.
If it was just municipal offices, I think City Hall would be great.
Yeah.
But I do think it does, there's a little bit of a curveball in there with the other entities.
Yeah, I think, and government center, in my opinion, is more innovative.
Yeah.
And Lord knows Red Oak can use innovation.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So, because this also is an potential action item, am I hearing that as a motion?
I motion to, use the name, would it be City of Red Oak Government Center or Red Oak?
Red Oak Government. I think it's short like that, I'd say Red Oak Government Center.
Okay, so I motion to use the name Red Oak Government Center as the new, name for our new center that we're building.
Okay? All right, any other discussion? Hey, man, we're making a legacy here, so.
I mean, is the motion appropriate? I mean.
I approve, I'll accept that. What power do I have? I don't even get to vote on this, so. All right, those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Hey.
Frank, aye.
Mike, when I.
All right, those not in favor of that?
Hey.
All right, so it still passes. That's 4-1. All right?
All right, thank you very much.
4-1. You got direction now.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, so now, and who makes up the address?
Well, we're working on that internally at the moment, but if you have any feedback while I guess we can still talk about this on this item. If you have any feedback, my personal opinion would have been to address the 3 properties separately. If there was an emergency at the football field, there would be maybe it's 100 Live Oak at the football field, but depending on which way the numbering goes. 200 at the Red Oak Government Center, and then 300 at the ball fields or something like that, so that they could differentiate the location.
Call it City Hall, right?
So what's that look like for emergency?
That's currently pretty much the way it is. I believe it's 100 Live Oak, 101 Live Oak, 200 Live Oak is
The building?
the new municipal center. And City Hall. It is 300, so it's county center.
What about the old school? What's that at?
The old school.
That's 101?
Good court.
Where's that?
That's 101.
Yeah, where the courts is 101. In the Red Oak Government Center, 200.
Okay.
So,
If you want feedback, I mean, I'd say my feedback would be to separate them out as much as needed for fire and police to identify them.
well, and again, to what you said a minute ago with Google and mapping and stuff like that, if you tap in the baseball fields, you want to tap in the address for the baseball fields, not the football field.
And this doesn't affect the house, that
No.
street on there?
No, not at all.
Live Oak? Live Oak.
Is it possible to take the 200 from here and use it there for the government center?
It's already it's already labeled 200 right
The
now.
whole parcel, when we bought the whole parcel, it's 200.
Okay.
But on their CAD system for EMS, they have it separated out.
Yeah. And I think what we can do is do 100 for the football field, 110 for the field house, 200 for the government city hall, and 300 for the baseball field. Well, that gets torn down.
Yes, that's gonna be torn down.
Yeah, if it ever happens, yeah, so it might not be 100 and 110, it may be 100 and 150 or 40 or whatever.
So you got direction. All right,
Lots of direction, thank you.
excellent. That's pretty simple. Number 18.
We'll do executive session before 18, so if you want to do
Oh.
reports.
Okay, I'm sorry. Chief Blank, are you up?
Good evening, Council, Mayor and Council. Just want to bring to the attention, we've obviously been extremely busy with grass fires here lately. We've seen a 160% increase in grass fires from July 1st till today, as opposed to the last 2 years. Obviously, we're in extreme drought conditions right now. We're right on the borderline of being in the exceptional drought conditions, which is the worst that we can have. We're just encouraging everyone to, with the vegetation being extremely dry, low humidity levels, just to watch anything that you're doing outdoors that may cause a spark. I mean, some of it's very simple, don't throw cigarettes outside, but some things people don't think about is parking a vehicle on dry grass. Catalytic converters can get over 1,000 degrees on these vehicles, and it only takes about 500 degrees for dry. Some of this dry brush to start off very easily. So just some small things like that. Things to keep your house safe. We do have some, rural interface with some homes being on some land and things like that. Clear out a 30-foot path around your home, sweep up the dead limbs, the leaves, any dead vegetation, bushes, things like that. That way if a wildfire does break out in your area, your home will hopefully be, protected from some of that. We've seen a large increase. Take precautions when you're grilling, clear out a 10-foot area around it. Have a fire extinguisher, water hose, something around there in case something does get out. You can quickly extinguish that. We just want to bring those things to everyone's attention. And I'd also like to thank all the city departments, and I'm going to steal Alexis thunder. I'm sure she's going to talk a little bit about it. But everyone's working together, the city departments working together for the Red Oak White and Blue. I heard numerous compliments from citizens, anywhere from the traffic to the vendors to the fireworks show. They were extremely proud and happy to see it back and kind of bigger and better than ever with COVID not being in the forefront of it all. So just want to thank those departments. Thank you, City Council and Mayor for allowing that to happen. That's all I have. Unless you have any questions.
Let you know, I worked on a baler this weekend.
Got it all. No overheating, no overheating, no bad bearings or anything.
That's right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Chief Wolf, just a second. Go ahead. Thank you. So how are we on our water? I guess, is that gonna be, how's our tank and everything like that? I'm gonna let Public Works go first, so.
So in answer to that, we have had to up our take from Dallas Water, just to be able to hit our daily averages. They've gone up to over 2.3, and we're still in early July, so we had to take more water.
How's the revenue?
Revenue it is now. The problem, though, is that when we up the water take,
Can't go back down.
we can't go back down when we don't sell as much water in January or March or whatever.
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
So that was one of the things I was gonna talk about. Last year, actually for 2 years now, we've been at 2 million gallons a day flow rate. This year, we saw a huge increase in water usage up to 2.2, and that lasted for all of a few days, and then we needed up to 2.4. Just a few numbers. In June of 21, we used 36 million gallons of water that month. June of this year, we used 52 million gallons of water. July of 21, we used 45 million gallons. This month, we've already discharged, as of noon today, 24 million gallons of water. And we're projected to hit 66 million gallons of water this month.
All right, so So at what point, we as a city, do we have to do water restrictions or every other day?
We can enact water restrictions at any time as a city. Currently Dallas is not.
They're not
enacted,
restricted.
And we've asked the question before we did this second round of, increase. We asked, what do you have in your plans? Are you gonna be imposing, stage one or any other water restrictions? And their reservoirs right now are fine, so they're not planning on making any changes in the meeting. That's another reason why we had to increase that stage. So council has the authority at any time to enact any sort of water restrictions. Alexa's been working with Public Works. We've been trying to push some education pieces out about water wise, around the house and that sort of thing. We anticipate that eventually, we all look at the weather, there's not any relief in sight and there's not any rain in sight either. And so we think that, eventually Dallas will probably get there. A lot of utility districts are already there, as of this week. And so, in some cities, honestly, they keep those water restrictions in place year round. So they have, odd and even watering, that sort of thing. That's just how they operate. So it's definitely within the council's.
Well, and I'm not advising to bring that up and make those restrictions right now. I'm glad that y'all are on top of it. I think our trigger point's gonna be once we get a note from Dallas that there's a level.
Yeah, that's mandatory if we get that.
Okay.
I think we should be proactive on this.
Okay, but we can't do that now.
Yeah, I can do it now, but I think we should be proactive.
Okay, so maybe we need to have that, I guess we'd call it an emergency meeting if we had to do that, correct?
We have a budget workshop scheduled that we needed to.
So
place
next
an item on the
Wednesday?
Agenda.
No, if we could.
Oh, no, never mind.
Okay.
Could we just ask for consideration or recommendation for next council meeting? I mean, it'd be a month, that's still a long time, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's, and I hate to even say this, but it's the truth. Some of it's gonna self-regulate when everybody gets their bills.
Well, I pay mine.
So, I mean, people are using water right now. I mean, you got grass watering, you got pools filling, you got all sorts of stuff going on. Whenever they start getting those bills, they're gonna self-regulate to some degree after they see, well, my gosh, last month my bill was this and this month is that, and we need to make some changes.
So I guess also along those lines, then we need to make sure our water department has their speech ready when people are calling saying, well, why is it gone? They can say, look at the number of gallons.
Right.
Okay. Right. All right, anything else?
Other than that, along with the water usage, I mean, we have over a dozen active construction projects. Our construction inspector, he's a busy man, and he is getting at it, and he is the best construction inspector we've had for a long time. But with that, those construction projects save a lot of water as well. About a 2.5-inch meter, you put a lot of water through a side of a 2.5-inch meter. But our crews are getting at it. It's over 100 degrees. We're taking care of them. We got electrolyte popsicles we're taking out to them throughout the day in water. But as our council brought up earlier, we've been working on the streets, and there's nothing harder than pouring hot mix on asphalt in the middle of the line. But we're getting at it, and we're making the city as best we can with what y'all are giving us. We really appreciate it.
So at what point do you ever shift your work day to earlier and cut out?
Currently,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the streets crews coming in earlier, getting the job done and leaving before the peak of the heat.
Okay. Council, any other questions?
No question.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Chief. Come on up. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I don't have a whole lot. I just wanted to make note that one of the officers that was honored here tonight was also recommended by myself and the rest of the command staff to Mothers Against Drunk Driving, as she led the department in the number of DWI arrests that she made. She also is in contention for the region, and that was Rebecca Peavyhouse that was here earlier tonight that was honored. She's been very active in her efforts to take impaired drivers off the roadway, and she was honored. by Mothers Against Drug Driving in June for her efforts and presented a certificate, from them for those efforts.
So they're all on the left or right?
That's the
The short one.
shorter female officer. Chris. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have about the monthly report.
I have a question, Chief, more so relating to, Fourth of July weekend. And this may be a number you may or may not know, but as it relates to the reports, compensation of fireworks from the city, do you have any information on that?
Well, I was anticipating that question, and so I ran the numbers. Between July 2nd and July 5th, we ran over 540 some odd fireworks calls. Just the officers alone. That's not including any other calls for service that they responded to. That was on top of. I brought in 2 additional officers on July 4th to handle nothing but the fireworks calls, and they couldn't keep up, so we actually had to pull officers off of other calls for service to help respond. So one of the unique things for us is, we have a city ordinance prohibiting fireworks and possession of fireworks in town. But for us to actually be able to issue a citation, it has to be an on-view offense because it's a Class C misdemeanor. So the officer has to witness that. So if we pull up into a driveway and they're in possession of the fireworks and they've got them all set out there, that's something that we could issue a citation for. If we physically see them light one and it goes off, but many of the fireworks calls that we went to were actually on the outskirts of town, adjacent to the county or within the county, and we had to refer them back to the county for those calls, which we have no jurisdiction to be able to enforce. The reality is most of the times where they're at in the queue, as we respond, by the time we actually get to the call that was called in 30 minutes ago, most of those people were done shooting whatever allotment they could afford to have.
Yeah.
And so we get there and they're done, and we see other fireworks in town. They self-dispatch themselves to numerous fireworks calls as well. As they're driving and they through a neighborhood, responding to one, and they see some go off, they would stop, try to identify where it was coming from, and then on a lot of instances, we have people run inside the house, they pick them all up, they lock the door. We still didn't see them actually initiate or set off those fireworks, so it becomes very difficult for us to be able to enforce unless we physically see them setting them off or they're in actual physical possession of the fireworks.
My follow-up question would be, as it relates to the ordinance, do you feel it helps or hurts you on this particular weekend with your team?
I think the ordinance is good to have in place. The reality of the enforcement aspect of it is that it's very difficult. Okay. I think that's an ordinance that needs to be in place, and where we can or where we do witness it, it does give us the teeth to be able to enforce that by city ordinance. The reality is actually catching that in progress with the number of officers that we have working at any one time, and that there's a lot of people in town that are surprised when they ask me, well, you guys have got 10 or 12 officers working on every shift, right? No, we don't. And so they don't understand that there's not officers that are dedicated to just answering fireworks call. And this is the first year that I've actually authorized the overtime and put officers that were dedicated to responding to those particular calls. And we still couldn't keep up.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Years, I mean, no war out there. Don't everything. Thanks, Chief. Thank you. Hi, Ms. Beasley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chief Blanton did steal a little bit of my thunder. Thank you for that. I would like to take a moment to thank those of you who were able to make it out to Red Oak, White and Blue. With an estimated 3,500 people in attendance, we definitely think it was one of the most successful events that we have been able to host. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Ms. Coleman for all her hard work on the event, as well as our parks, public works, police, fire departments. It's truly a group effort, like Chief Blanton said. It's not something any one of us could have done alone. And it was hot. So thank them all for being out there that day on the black asphalt with us. Also, I did want to let you guys know that the website redesign is starting next week. Just a reminder, it is a 6-month process. So you will not see any visible changes to the website until we actually launch sometime closer to the new year. But we will come back to you guys as we get further along in the process and give you a glimpse of kind of what it's going to look like and some of the new features. So that is all I have. I will take any questions anybody might have.
Why did I give an invitation? Red, or white, and blue.
Invitation to Red, Oak, White, and Blue.
Oh, no, but I mean, I didn't see it. God hadn't told me about it. I forgot his information.
We'll get one in the mail to you.
Well, thank you, appreciate it. Pony Express.
Yeah.
So Ben, I think you're not one of the 1795 Facebook followers? No, I'm not. Okay, just making sure. Just making sure. I don't think we have a TikTok account, but like, you know, there are 21 Twitter followers. Maybe you can join us on Twitter. Okay. I'm dinner on Twitter.
Thank you, Ms. Beasley. So no Hartman, no engineering development services?
No, we don't. However, Bob wanted to touch on, we had a question regarding code enforcement, issue of violations or citations. So I think Bob was going to explain that during the report section.
Okay.
All right, I get to talk here very briefly. Mayor and council, there was an issue about our code enforcement officers issuing citations or notices of violation. With Home Rule City, we have the authority for our code enforcement to issue citations in our capacity as a home rule municipality. Many times, code enforcement issues what they call a notice of violation. That notice of violation looks a lot like a citation that a peace officer gives. You are probably all familiar with a citation for a traffic stop or given by the police department. That citation, I know the mayor doesn't speed, but what I mean by that is that you hear that term very often in connection with a traffic stop or a speeding violation or a stop sign or traffic control citation. The Code of Criminal Procedure in Texas specifically gives that authority to a police officer to issue that citation. And what that citation means is that you're given a notice of a potential violation based on the observations of the police officer. And in lieu of being arrested, you sign that citation and you promise to appear in accordance with terms and conditions of the citation. In code enforcement, in most cases, we don't make contact with a citizen, but we leave them with or mail them that quote citation or notice of violation. And then in there, they, like a traffic stop suspect, would promise to appear in court or make an appearance within 10 days. The difference generally with a citation that's given by code enforcement is if they fail to appear and make an appearance in municipal court for that code violation, then the municipal court judge issues an actual summons for them to come to court. Since they're not present when they receive the notice, we cannot issue a failure to appear or what they call a warrant for their arrest based on their promise to appear. So there's some probably confusion among our citizens, and that was exhibited in some of the emails that some of you may have received within the last 45 days. So what we're going to do to clean that up and make it easy for the citizens to understand is I will bring back to you an actual ordinance that authorizes code enforcement, our health officer, health inspector, and other officials that are given enforcement authority within the city that specific authority to actually issue the citation. But in most cases, that will be done not by personal contact. It will be done by leaving a copy at the premise where the violation occurred, or it will be mailed. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Most of the time, you get a notice, you've got time to fix the situation, whether it's mowing grass or fixing a fence or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, in most cases, what code enforcement officers generally make an informal contact with a property owner where they point out that they've got either high grass or weeds, or they've got a structural problem with their property or other code enforcement issue. They're asked to correct it. And it's only where that correction does not take place does the more formal notice of violation or citation get issued. I don't know, since we don't handle your municipal court, generally the prosecutor, if they get compliance by the time of pretrial with either the attorney or the property owner, many times those tickets, citations and notices of violation are dismissed, and we obtain compliance, because the whole idea is to get compliance more than seeking a penalty or a fine to our citizens for these kinds of code violations.
So Bob, just because I think I misunderstood or I wasn't clear, you're preparing an ordinance for us that will make these code violation citations more like what a peace officer would give?
Yes, yes, and it's more the authority that's given to the cities in Chapter 51 to enforce its ordinances. It's the authority for the cities more implied than expressed. There's an attorney general's opinion that clearly indicates that the municipality may enact ordinance to specifically authorize those as a way of informing the general public. And instead of having a lawyer have to interpret several layers of state statutes and constitutional law, it's just easier for us to provide that ordinance, have the council enact it, and go into our code of ordinances. And it's just easier to explain to our citizens that this is the authority for issuing that citation.
And really all that does is take out the step. And a lot of times, even if they get that citation and it's not even a notice, but an actual citation, they'll still show up at the court. It's just those cases when they don't show up at the court, now that would take that step out of the process where the court has to actually issue a summons for the same offense.
So I understood that.
Yeah, they would still, for us to issue a warrant, the citizen would have to sign the citation. And that's awfully difficult to do with code violations, because code officers a lot of times are working the cases while people are at work, so they'll leave the citation, or the code enforcement officer will subsequently mail those. Where you don't have a signed promise to appear, the court could not technically issue a warrant for your arrest, but they would issue a summons for you to appear. If you don't appear for the summons, then they would have the authority to take other measures to get you to come to court and address the issue. So by doing this,
we're cutting out that administrative stuff. Is that the only issue we're solving with this change? Okay.
Yes. They're streamlining the process a little bit.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Ben. Bob. All right, Ms. Platt. Yeah, there she is.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a few brief things to add to my report. Excuse me. The collections for July, we've received for sales tax, we have an increase of 10.59% over our previous year to date is 14.91. So for the month, 10.59 increase, and for year to date, about 15%. That's about where we've been all year. So we're kind of staying in line with that increase, which is great. Additionally, finance, along with city management, has been working with staff on preparing the budget, getting ready for our budget workshop and strategic planning session next week. And of course, wanted to remind all of you about that. So we'll see you there. And then that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a quick update from my report. In June, we had 5 new hires, and we've met some of them last month at the meeting and today. We currently have 6 job postings up, so we're doing pretty good on recruitment, and it's been that moving along during this time. We're also preparing for our annual open enrollment for our city employees insurance coverage, and we'll kick that off next. Available to answer.
And we did get a pass on the rates.
Really good news on our medical. We did get a rate pass for this upcoming year. This is the 2nd year that we've received a rate pass based on our loss ratio. So it's almost unheard of to get, so it's very exciting for the city, and no increases will happen for the employees or the city for our medical insurance. We do expect next year to go out for a full RFP on all of our benefits, as it would be the 4th year.
That Stop Smoking campaign's really worked. Thanks.
It's really good news for the city.
Thank you. Mr. Benford.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Just a couple updates. Our Avaya phone system that you approved last month, we're in the middle of that, and we should be swapping out phones next Thursday night, and Friday morning they'll all work just like planned. So that's why we have Greg. So
No problem.
and I'm present there. So
And Mayor and Council, on that note, we have a communications plan to go out, letting the public know that, number one, the 911 system is fine. There will be no disruption there. And we're going to have an alternative phone number that in case things don't go perfectly, that residents can call into City Hall and get to the correct department until those phones are back up and running. So Alexa's got some things that'll go out on Facebook, the website, all of our platforms, and then we'll have that backup phone here ready for that change.
Not that numbers are changing, it's just the system.
The system itself is changing, and we're relying on AT&T to do some porting, and whoever works with AT&T before, not always a gimme. So.
All right.
Sorry, John.
No, you're fine, thank you. Only other thing is Live Oak project, that we're just busy with that, and that's the big stuff right now.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In person, Mr. Ragsdale.
When we move into Live Oak.
That's under okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just had a few things to highlight. It's been a busy month at the library. We gave out 98 new patrons, so that's 98 new families that have joined the library just in June. We had 1,883 people visit the library in June, and I believe this is a record. We checked out 3,352 items just the month of June. That's combined print materials and ebooks. We had 371 unique borrowers check out those materials. 15 programs were presented, and drum roll, 1,096 people attended those programs. I just checked our Facebook, profile, and it says our our page was viewed 7,000 times just in June. So we're really excited. I have great staff. The staff are promoting all the programs that we have, and the kids are just having a great time. Wednesday is our last summer reading club program. That'll be here Wednesday afternoon at 2, and we'll have like a party, summer reading club, end of the summer reading club party, raffles, things like that, but it's just going great. So I appreciate your support, and I'm going great. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Mr. Kelly, anything different?
Good evening again. I just wanted to discuss that, last month, y'all allowed us to allow some of these groups to charge some gate fees and things, which made a difference. We did secure 2 World Series, which are 4 and 5 day events on the baseball fields. They were very well attended. Not sure what the economic impact was on the community, but we're going to work to try to strengthen that, to make that more of a strong point of having these folks come here, let them know, who we are as Red Oak and what we can offer them, either staying here or coming and eating here is, one of the great things about having them come in town. We also had a discussion with Todd Johnson and Ben Blaine and the police chief. We talked about next year we won't have any tournaments in the month of July or August. It's just terrible. It's just too hot, and it's unsafe at some point. I mean, I know the youngsters are able to bounce back pretty quick from being out there, but when we have temperatures like we've had, I don't feel comfortable having kids out there for days on end to where the temperature's so high. So in the future, we'll steer away from those 2 months of the year just to try to avoid, because at the end of the season, and by me stating this early to these folks, they'll push their World Series back into June and not try to roll them out further into the month of July, because July and August are the 2 deadest months for baseball and softball.
We got people that are passing out or anything like that out there?
No, I didn't get a report of anybody that was sick or anything from the heat.
That's what you're trying to prevent.
Correct. I do want to prevent that, and, we're already busy enough as it is, the fire department on calls, and then for them to have to respond out there, we just kind of have it burden.
You don't have any out there?
No, sir.
So what are you trying, what kind of problem you trying to solve? I don't understand that.
You're trying to prevent.
Well, the temperature, like, we were 107 degrees ambient the other day, and the temperature on the turf was getting up to 150. Although it's, for the youth, it's not so bad. I worry more about the spectators that are sitting around all day long, that are in the heat, and they're less likely to be hydrating. Those kids are constantly hydrating. Every time they come in the dugout, you watch them, they're getting something to drink. Whereas when you have the adults are just hanging out watching the kids or whatever, well, I'm not very active, so I don't need to drink quite as much, so.
Well, last summer, it was cool here. And we're trying to increase restaurant usage and motel, hotel usage, and I don't see that's really a decision.
I still got to compromise. I mean, I got a kid who plays soccer, and they do that this summer. We have lots of tournaments that are hours restricted, so it'll still be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday tournament, but it's have to be after 7 for the games or something like that. That's maybe a middle ground to look at as well.
But I mean, most of the tournaments are done now until the fall. They shut it down late in the summer. I just want to force the ones that are thinking about having those tournaments they try to push back, is to have them come in June, come in a little bit earlier, because we're not going to get too many tournaments in here in July and August anyway. I mean, there's nothing on the books right now.
So you said you and Chief Wolf had a conversation?
We had a conversation in a meeting, just discussing it.
But you both agreed that was the best solution?
I think, yes, sir. I feel that way. I mean, just from being out there all week with the kids.
I think if you two met and you put your minds together and feel it's the best solution for public safety, I support that.
Right, that's something. It's trying to prevent, you don't want to wait for something to happen, tragic. Right. Then they gotta change it, if you try to prevent it, I think that's a solution. I spend a lot of times out in the stadiums, supporting kids, and again, spectators, like you said, that are doing the cheering, the screaming for their kids, but they're not thinking about drinking because they don't feel like they're doing much, but at the same time, that's something playing a role.
Well, it's not a decision that's final or made
Right.
completely. It's what he's thinking about, and, it sounds like a great idea to do a shift at time, and yeah, we want growth to be here, but you can just heard some of these inputs.
We haven't had a problem. I'm with Ben, these parents have traveled, they know what they're getting into when they sign up for these games. We haven't had an issue yet. Maybe we can have some off-duty paramedic or something, I don't know.
But I think if we have our director and our chief of police saying like this is the best idea, I think we should trust what we have in leadership.
Well, I don't think we've had a full meeting on it.
Okay.
I mean, I've just heard a little discussion here and a little
You gotta look
discussion
at the
there.
parents too.
I think,
They're the ones paying and signing up.
I think we need to, not just Chief Wolf, I think we need to have Chief Blanton in there, maybe more importantly than Chief Wolf, but, my kids are playing baseball and so forth. I was telling somebody the other day, my wife said, you don't need to go fishing, it's 107. Well, when I was 10 years old, I was in the middle of a cotton field with a hoe in my hand all day long. So, yeah, exactly. So I'm not all that sold on it. I think most of your different directors and folks who are going to actually put these tournaments on are gonna know what the people who are coming to the tournament, they have talked to them. They're discussing these things with these teams and parents and so forth, and they can decide whether they wanna do it or not.
I think people prevent any problem. We haven't had any problem with it. I just.
Chief Wolf, that comment.
Most of my conversations revolve around the officers needing to do walkthroughs with regards to parking and spectator issues with tournament staff. So that was what the majority of our conversation was, and there was a brief conversation on health and welfare of attendees, but the impact that it had on us responding to calls for service with regards to parking issues, arguments and verbal altercations. We didn't have any physical altercations, but verbal altercations between tournament staff, parents who weren't happy because of a call and their team lost, and getting in umpires' faces and things that had a potential criminal component to it. That was the extent of our conversation, and there was a brief conversation with regards to health and welfare as it related to heat. And we haven't had any instances that were documented. I don't know if the fire department ran on any calls.
I just want to throw that out, we've not had anything at that location for the month of June or July. What I don't know is how many got reported, or how many incidents I've heard that didn't get reported. There's always that chance.
I would also point out, and Jonathan and I had this conversation, we did walkthroughs on these tournaments just randomly. So one of the things that, and actually Waylon McAnally said this today too. One of the things that we're looking at is some additional shade structures. We have some shade structures out there, but we have some possibilities to put some more out there, and I'd be more in line with doing something like that rather than shutting off tournaments and saying no more tournaments after June.
But millions of dollars putting flats out there.
Okay, then there's another 30, 40 team tournament for our own rules.
Right.
When you're the parent, the one picking.
Yeah. I think it's responsible to have discussions about health and safety, for sure. Yeah, you should definitely have those discussions, keep having them, and keep having ideas, but, I think,
You're saying we're not getting any calls.
shutting off the.
But we don't want to limit ourselves either. We don't want to say, no, we're not.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
He left his walking stick. You're all right.
Mr. Phillips. tell us when we're gonna get to move in, don't we? Oh, he's gone.
It's gone, it's like, well, I don't know when we're gonna get to move in. DC has until March to complete the project, so we don't have anything updated, sooner than that right now. Of course, you know, everyone's well aware of the supply chain issues, and that sort of thing, so we're kind of at the mercy of the different disciplines to make sure they're getting their, items ordered, and they're in time to complete the work. So we'll keep you guys updated if we do get any sort of, you know, move-in date or anything as soon as possible. We'll let everybody know.
And we're probably not gonna get anything until it's almost time. I mean, they're not gonna go out on a limb and say, well, we know we said March, but we're gonna say we're gonna finish in January. They're not gonna say that until it's January and they're almost finished.
So, you know, like I said, we'll keep you updated on that. As far as the building, we're a little shy of 40% complete. The major updates are, fire sprinkler system is almost 100% complete. They're actually doing some testing. They've charged the system and everything, so they're almost done with the fire sprinkler system. They're working on the fire alarm next. They started putting in, door, jams and hardware, they mount the doors to, on my point right now, but, those have gone in section 1, which is the, side of the building with the courts, and they're working their way this way. That's kind of how this construction has started. They're starting to hang quite a bit of drywall now, so you can, really start to see those rooms take shape. Hollow metal door frames is what they were putting in. I knew I'd get there eventually. The new roof is going on. They're about 70% complete on the roof, so that's exciting. We're getting closer and closer to being dried in, which is a good thing.
Does that rain come?
Well, yeah,
That actually
maybe.
is a problem.
We'll get a brand new roof on.
If you didn't do it, it'd rain, so.
Yeah, right. But, you know, we'll be ready for it if it ever does. So, we got that. We do have now with the approval of the, HVAC repairs, of course, they're gonna be getting on that and getting all of that taken care of along with the gas lines that I mentioned earlier. They're working on, the lintels have been cut in the library, so then the next thing is they'll actually go in and cut the windows that are gonna be in the front part of that library. So that'll be neat to see, and that'll provide a lot of extra light to that room. We are, like I mentioned earlier, working on the signage package. We looked at some examples today. So we've got some feedback to them. Also meeting on, furniture and what might be available on the used furniture market to help furnish the remainder of the building. Most of the furniture we have will be coming with us. So, we're gonna try to, outfit the rest of it, with some lightly used furniture. Those are the big updates. We will have some more, just so you know, telling you now, we'll have some more change orders coming. We're gonna have to do some things like reseal all the windows on the exterior, because we have, while we are fixing the roof, we do have some window seals that are bad, and the caulking around the windows is bad, so, that'll be a potential, change order. We also have, a series of revisions that are coming through, hopefully this week, and so we should get pricing on those, which will be some, we have some additional structural issues in one of the corners that we're having to work out. There's some, additional electrical work in the main hallway. So just little bits and pieces. I'm thinking we're kind of getting close, hopefully, towards the end of the change orders or the big stuff. But, as I mentioned earlier, we have gone over that contract price, so anything that is a major, change order, we'll have to bring that before you. So I'll try to keep that as condensed as possible and give you guys an update as we go. Be happy to answer any questions. They did get started this week. on the paving and, site work projects for the drainage, the fire lane that goes around the building, the additional parking and ADA access. All that started this week, so, we're excited to see that get going again.
My appreciation to the mayor and city manager making that deal with the ISD. I think you saved a tremendous amount of money over the long term.
So that happened July 7th.
Huh?
That happened July 7th of 19?
19.
It was my first week here.
July 7th.
A tremendous deal for this city. Deals and all that.
Could you remind me of the all-in budget for this?
The guaranteed maximum price was, 4.3 million, 4.328. So, we're over that budget now.
Well, it's my humble opinion, I think for your government center, city hall, whatever you want to call it, I think that's your focal point of the city. That really has to set the standard for the city. So I think for that amount, you know.
Yeah, and, you know, here's just another example of things that we're bringing in change orders. I mean, when you have the VCT we have on some of the flooring, it's fine, but it's the thinner tack. We're looking to go with a little bit thicker because while the floor is okay, there's waves and dips and so forth that the more rigid, thicker VCT won't telegraph. It'll level it out. So we're gonna have, you know, some of those types of things that we're looking at just to try to make sure. We don't wanna go put in $4.3 or $4 million and well, if we'd only spent another little bit.
And did it right.
And did it right.
So, Councilman Smith and Councilman Franklin probably have not seen that exterior.
I've actually walked the building with Councilman Franklin before the exterior renovation?
Yeah, the
Yeah, they've
sign
seen it.
stuff, have you seen that?
Yeah, I've emailed them out.
Okay, cool.
So my question is, I knew I wasn't here around for the start. You're supplying spaces for chamber, all these other, are they paying their portion?
So the agreement was that, we are finishing out the county tax office, and we're gonna be actually been emailing them today with, the tax assessor. So they're gonna be paying for their portion of the renovation. They've even done some extra finishes and some things above what we would have done. So they're gonna be paying for their portion. We have a verbal commitment, or a written commitment, from the Chamber of Commerce to pay for their portion. And we're actually meeting with them on Thursday to discuss that. And then we have space reserved for the ROISD Foundation. Right now, we're not doing anything to that area. It's kind of a future space, so they're not really planning on using it this time. But, as I've discussed with, Kevin Frills over at the ISD, a lot of the work that they would be doing on the inside, they would probably do in-house themselves. And so, he just asked us to, you know, we're obviously gonna sprinkle it. We'll have some, we'll make sure all the electrical and everything and all of that is good, so that if they go in and wanna use those rooms, they can.
So like the county will come in and either, are they renting the space or are we?
Well, and that's
giving it?
something that Todd and I were talking about a week or two ago, is that we may wanna look at, some sort of like a license agreement or a local type agreement with the county, even with the chamber and, you know, potentially the ROISD Foundation, because we're gonna have continuing maintenance, electricity, utilities, plus, we are gonna have to, you know, clean the building, supplies and that sort of thing. And so, while
We're buying a phone system like it's doing now.
no, they're actually gonna be separate. So the county has their own, IT system that they'll be going with. And then the others will be separate as well, because the school district will they kept their fiber in the building, so they'll be able to connect there, and then the chamber will be able to choose whatever provider they would like. But we've been discussing about coming up with a monthly or yearly, instead of charging them rent, it would just be kind of maintenance and operations type money that would help to, contribute to, you know, because we're gonna potentially end up asking council to, consider a new position, another custodial position for that building. And we're gonna have all the janitorial supplies and that, I mean, 72,000 square feet of new building city, so it's quite a bit to take care of. So, that was something that we've been discussing internally.
There's a lot of consideration, good. That's a lot of classrooms there. If you wanna hold classes on photography, if they're in their parks, or you wanna do pottery, you wanna do painting, or any kind of thing that our citizens, you know, would like to get involved in, you've got plenty of classrooms, and, it's ideal, something like that. I'm really, sort of pumped on something like that.
Well, in the future, you will.
Yeah.
We're not finishing out those spaces with this, but we have the space to do so. But yeah, back to the question, I mean, part of the reason we're not necessarily charging rent per se is because it is kind of a benefit to our citizens to be able to go to one spot, take care of their water bill and their taxes at the same place. But if there's a way to maybe share a janitor or something like that and have them chip in for that, that's kind of the idea that we're tossing around.
Maintaining.
Right, right.
Thank you, sir. Answer to your question is March, maybe. Maybe.
We got things in March, so if you
Okay, the time is, so we are gonna go into executive session, closed session, and we will come out and then take care of item 18. The time is 8:55, and there's no reason for directors to stay, correct?
Just Amanda. We'll need Amanda, and we'll need Gloria. John, if you can put Gloria into executive session, and Bob into executive session. Well, yeah, Lee's here.
Camera on?
Yeah, it's still on.
It's on.
Okay, I don't know if that matters.
No, yeah, so when we get in, that'll be what we move to.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Louder.
Kyle didn't. What he didn't say was that the tournament director was the one that initiated that whole thing. If they don't wanna do it, that's fine. That's where all that came from originally. But who's to say some other tournament director doesn't want to do it? That's right.
All right. So the time is, 10:46, and we will go back into open session. And we have item 18 to consider, and that's consider approval of ordinance number 22-022 in the city of Red Oak, Texas, amending ordinance number 21-034, amending the fiscal year 2022 official budget, appropriating funds to increase revenues and expenditures within the general fund as attached in Exhibit A, providing that expenditures for said fiscal year to be made in accordance with said amended budget, providing a severability clause and providing an effective date. Council, this is what we were just briefed in, because it has to do with hours, right?
Yeah, the budget amendment.
Budget amendment.
Yeah, so the budget amendment is, do you want the original budget amendment, or do you want the updated budget?
Okay, all right, so, but it's still the same ordinance, and it's the
Right,
updated.
with the updated,
Okay, so I'll consider that motion. Councilman Drake, Councilman, Smith.
He beat you to it.
Yeah.
All right, those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Aye. Troy, aye. Lightfoot, aye.
Smith, aye.
All right, passes 5-0. There's no other actions that need to be taken based on executive session, so I'll entertain a motion at 10:48 and that was Goodwin and Franklin. Those in favor?
Franklin, aye.
Aye.
Troy, aye. Thank you.
Oh, Lightfoot, aye. Sorry.
Franklin, aye. Good evening, gentlemen.
That's 5-0. Good night, gentlemen. Thank you all very much.